Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first ever Bold Take podcast live stream here. Obviously, I'm Austin Wader. This is Austin Hill. And yeah, doing a little bit something different here for Super Bowl Sunday. Um, yeah, let me mute my YouTube as I'm doing live with that. That's funny. Um, having some that's interesting there. That's what we expect with the first hiccups of a live stream. But yeah, I'm Austin Wader. That's Austin Hill. Usually we have episodes recorded and we upload them on the Bold Take podcast here on YouTube, like we have. But we had some things come up this week. One person in particular, I won't say who, but it's the guy wearing the Steeler jersey, wasn't able to get an episode this week. So we decided, hey, what's something we could do? We're going to do a Super Bowl live stream a couple hours for the game, basically, technically 3.5 hours before the Super Bowl starts. So before we get into anything, Austin, how you doing, man? I haven't talked to you in a week.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm glad you're feeling better. Excited to get out and do this live stream. I know we don't do this. We've never done this before, like you said. So, this is kind of a new fun way to kind of capitalize on a missed episode this week and kind of do something different and do something fun here. I'm excited to get talking about the Super Bowl, though. One of the best times of the year.
Absolutely. So obviously, let's just address the two teams in case you don't know. Chiefs versus 49ers. Everyone expected it, really kind of expected at least one of those teams to be here. Let's start with the Chiefs because let's face it, entering the postseason, this was probably the most doubt that the Chiefs have had entering a playoff run in the entire time that Patrick Mahomes has been a Kansas City Chief. But I give the Chiefs a lot of credit. They answered the bell constantly, and we wondered, can they go on the road and win playoff games, Austin? They only did it once, they did it twice.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the offensive inconsistency this team had this season. You talk about that long drought Travis Kelsey had as far as catching touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes was turning the ball over at, I think, the highest rate of his career this season. And you had tons of mishaps in the receiving core from Kadarius Toney and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. But like you said, they really kind of battened down the hatches here in the playoffs and. That defense has been maybe the best it's been in the Patrick Mahomes era in Kansas City. And Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey have played their best football come playoff time, which is always nice to have. So, yeah, this team has stepped up, answered the call when they've needed to here in the postseason, and they look more like the Chiefs of old.
They really do. And I think the big thing that's helped step up, obviously, might be probably I might talk about defensively for the Chiefs. The defense has been a catalyst this year for them. When in recent years we always wondered it's Patrick Mahomes and maybe a defense that's going to give up 20 to 30 points. Now it's down to about 20 points a game for the Chiefs
Yeah.
defense. They've shut down opponents pretty well this postseason. And yep, here they are. And of course, the elephant in the room, obviously, Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift, which, by the way, let me just get this out of the way and then I'll let you say it, Austin. You got a problem with Taylor Swift being on the screen at Super Bowl. I don't know what to tell you. It's not her fault. If you're going to blame anyone, you can blame CBS and the television networks for doing it a million times. There's no reason to get mad at Taylor Swift for being on the screen. But number two, I think it adds a lot more to the NFL when it comes to the viewership. It has extended it out to more female audiences, Austin, at least my opinion.
Yeah, this is what I've said for a while now is that, whatever you may think about her as a person doesn't really matter. It's not her choice to be shown on TV however many times. And really, it's not as many times as people make it out to be. It's truly astounding the exaggeration that goes into it. But, like you said, it's not her choice. And yeah, I absolutely agree. She's brought a massive, massive fan base to the NFL, which let's be honest, though, sport of football is more on the downward swing. It's kind of a dying sport right now. It's just not expanding. It's not appealing to a new audience. But that's why they're going overseas, and that's why they're capitalizing on this Taylor Swift thing so hard because it has expanded this viewership and just the fan base in general for the NFL. I think this is honestly a super duper great thing for the NFL. And I hope that this brings people in to become lifelong fans to the NFL because it is losing viewership, and this is certainly something that can help the NFL stay strong with a new fan base who's excited to get into football.
Yeah, definitely. I'll agree with that. Let's now quickly talk about the San Francisco 49ers. They were the one seed out of the NFC. Everyone knows what happened last year in the NFC Championship game. They had the injuries to pretty much every quarterback they could possibly have on the roster last year, led to Josh Johnson getting some time in the NFC Championship. Shout out Josh Johnson, NFL veteran legend. Um, but anyway, they came into this year kind of with, I would say, a redemptive arc, saying we want to get back there. We want to get back there and prove how this team can be with a actual healthy quarterback. And they really showed that throughout most of the season. Had a bit of a skid at one point. I think they lost 3 in a row to some very good teams, but then they rolled Austin through the rest of that regular season. And I will say during these playoffs, they have not looked like they did in that regular season. They had a struggle game against the Packers, struggled against the Lions. And despite those struggles, here they are in the Super Bowl, and they get the rematch they wanted with the Chiefs from a few years ago.
Yeah, like you said, it hasn't been as dominant of a run as it was in the regular season. But yeah, you talk about this team, and there were even guys saying it after the NFC Championship game last year. If we had a quarterback, we win that game. That they truly believe that. I'm not going to necessarily go out and say that that's true or false.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll never know. But that was the strong opinion from San Francisco. They came out here and look, they fought hard. I agree with you. I think they've had some sloppy games, but down the stretch in these games, you've seen the defense step up. You've seen Brock Purdy step up. So really, this team has struggled as a whole through games. But when you look at really the late third and fourth quarter of these games, the 49ers are playing some unbelievable football, truly, in my opinion. They play super well at the end of games. So obviously the question is going to be, can they keep it close to Kansas City? Can they, avoid the slow start like we've seen this entire postseason? Because if you get that slow start against Patrick Mahomes and they start to get fire and fire and fire, and we might be witnessing a blowout here in this Super Bowl. But if the 49ers can either, get some stops on defense or keep in this game early, down the stretch, we know this team can execute.
Yeah, we absolutely know that. And of course, really talking about it, I brought it up at the very end there about how this is a rematch from Super Bowl 54, 2019. Look, these two teams, yes, they played that more recent in that Super Bowl, which was a couple of years ago, but I think it's safe to say these teams are not even close to the same teams they were in that first
For
matchup.
sure.
That was the Chiefs' first Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes. That was the 49ers' first Super Bowl. Jimmy G was the starter. Christian McCaffrey wasn't even on the team. Deebo Samuel was a rookie in the NFL that no one really knew about. Chiefs still had Tyreek Hill. And really, neither team was a proven caliber elite that could get to multiple Super Bowls. And now here we are a few years later, Austin, they're both here in Vegas. So it's definitely changed a lot in the recent years.
Yeah, you look at the 49ers, and I think ultimately they've refined this roster. They've gotten some massive pieces on defense. You talk about Bosa, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, but the new face, Chase Young, he hasn't really stepped up in the playoffs. Obviously, they're going to be counting on him to make some big plays for them. But certainly, I would argue that this 49ers secondary has gotten weaker since the last time these two teams faced off. Richard Sherman was in the 49ers secondary, if you'll remember that. And I would argue that, he wasn't necessarily in the prime of his career, but he was still playing pretty good football. I don't think he allowed a touchdown that entire postseason, maybe until the Super Bowl. So a good run for them there. So obviously the secondary is a little bit worse, but you look at Kansas City, and while they're playing, their best football right now when it matters, you're certainly seeing the downside of not having Tyreek Hill anymore. Certainly, this receiving core has its questions outside of Travis Kelsey. Can it execute at a high level consistently, and can they step up in the big moment? So, yeah, I'd completely agree. These are two different teams, but don't think that the guys who were on this 49ers team a few years ago don't remember what this team and what Patrick Mahomes did to them, and how they'd like to get that back, especially a guy like George Kittle. If you'll remember the phantom offensive pass interference, was at the end of
Yes.
the first half.
Yeah, because they would have caught it. They would have been in easy field goal range, would have been an extra field goal. and they end up losing by 11. But if they would have gotten that field goal, it would have been an 8-point game near the end. They would have had one more chance to try to score. So yeah, I'm sure Travis or George Kittle remembers that. And of course, you know, his famous saying at the end when the being mic'd up is, "I will be back here. I will be back here." I'm not going to say word for word what he said after that.
Yeah.
But he said he was going to be back with a vengeance. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah.
Um, but so this next segment, what we're going to do basically is we're going to go over some of the advantages for pretty much each spot on each team. And then we're going to get into some fun prop picks, whether it's, you know, actual Super Bowl picks for props for receivers, as well as, you know, fun ones like the coin toss and the one that we never seem to get right and always wonder what color it was, the Gatorade color.
Yeah.
I mean, one of these years we got to get it right, Austin, right? One of them, right?
We're two people picking. There's only so many colors of Gatorade.
You feel like we're due eventually.
Yeah, I agree.
But let's start number one with the elephant in the room with the quarterback position. And obviously the two quarterbacks come in very differently from it. Oh, is Ziggy making an appearance on the live stream?
Yeah, Ziggy. He's
Ziggy.
sometimes, you know, he gets a little crazy, but
Hey, I don't know if you saw Austin, Arkansas basketball game yesterday. They had a corgi race at halftime.
wow, I need to get in on that. Maybe I can make some
Yeah, I was
nice
about to
money
say,
off of those
take
corgis.
Ziggy up there, get some W's, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's what we
But
need.
but anyway, the quarterback position, two different perspectives here. You got Patrick Mahomes, another Super Bowl for him, like we talked about, and Brock Purdy. He's making his Super Bowl debut a year after not being the original starter. Keep in mind was the final pick in the draft. And I think it's safe to say you look at this one, Austin, and we both agree there's a clear advantage for which side has a quarterback here. Not based on really on talent, but but overall on experience in the game, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think Brock Purdy's gotten a lot of slander about his level of play at quarterback and you know the caliber of player he is. For the most part, I disagree. But yeah, I don't think anybody's going to argue who's the better quarterback in this matchup. I think Brock Purdy's good, and he definitely does his job for his team. But obviously, Patrick Mahomes is one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, and it's hard to rival that athletic ability.
Yeah, I'll agree. And we actually have our first comment here on the live stream, Austin, coming from someone I know well at UCA, a man by the name of Alan Godwin. He has the 49ers winning the Super Bowl, and he has Dre
Okay.
Greenlaw taking home MVP.
Hey, I would absolutely love to
I
see
would
that.
love
I
it
will
too.
be cheering for that.
Give me a Razorback as MVP. That's what I like to see. We appreciate the comment. Yeah, if you are watching, feel free to add your comments in. We'll answer them as we go along. You know, let us know your Super Bowl picks. Who you think could be a Super Bowl MVP? You know,
Yeah.
Gatorade color. I mean, we could go on and on with this for like forever. But yeah, definitely getting back to the point. I absolutely agree with you, Austin. Nothing against Brock Purdy talent wise. I think he's a very talented quarterback. He's clearly shown that, getting this team to a Super Bowl. But Patrick Mahomes has been here way too many times that, you know, I feel like he treats it as just another game at this point.
Absolutely.
But now let's get to the running back position. This I'm actually intrigued to hear about because there is an interesting battle here at running back. Obviously, you know, for the Chiefs, they have Isaiah Pacheco, they have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jerick McKinnon. I don't know if he's going to be able to play in the game, but he's some depth there. And then for the 49ers, obviously, you know, you got Offensive Player of the Year, Christian McCaffrey. You got Elijah Mitchell, and really two solid running backs on each side. This one's a little bit tougher to choose between, Austin.
Yeah. I think personally, I'd lean more San Francisco in this one. You know, Christian McCaffrey just so explosive in every way that he can hurt you. But you certainly cannot sleep on the impact that Isaiah Pacheco has in this run game. He runs angry every time he catches the ball, and it seems like no matter who's around him or the defense that's run, that he finds a way to scamper for 3, 4 yards at the least.
Yeah. As someone who picked Christian McCaffrey to win Offensive Player of the end of preseason, one of the few things, like I say, I got right from this preseason. Do not. I mean, you can go back and listen to our preseason picks if you want to.
Yeah.
If you want some laughs or some decent decent picks. This man made some pretty decent picks, I will say as well. I
I
will
tried.
say some of our NFC wild card picks were, uh, um, yeah, we
Reach.
won't say them. Just go watch it. Just go give it a listen and find out. But I'm going to lean on the 49ers as well, basically, mainly because if I have to decide a running back that's going to lead their offense today, it's going to be Christian McCaffrey. I think Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire are great, but that 49ers offense is not the same without Christian McCaffrey. It's not even close to the same elite offense without him. He'll catch it, he'll run it, and I mean, we saw in the NFC Championship last year, he can throw it even if he needs to.
Yeah.
So I would definitely lean 49ers there. Next one, we got wide receiver, and let's just make this one quick. I think it's safe to say we know which wide receiver room
Yeah.
is better, mainly because one receiver room wasn't known for screwing over the starting quarterback constantly this year.
Yeah. And maybe this would be a little bit more motivation for the NFL and the near future. Just a little side tangent here. To add a statistic for wide receivers about how many turnovers they are responsible for in a game.
Like it.
Because I think I've even had, I think a couple years ago, talking about Patrick Mahomes, I made this same argument, but I think he turned the ball over at the highest rate he has in his career this year. And I don't think it's entirely on the receivers. There were certainly a lot of plays this season where he tried to do too much. He tried to fire it into a bad spot and they got turned over. But there were about 4 or 5 times this year that I can remember that Kadarius Toney had an easy first down that could have been run for a touchdown. That somehow ended up intercepted. Ball's in his hands or in his chest, and then the next second it's in the defender's hands. So I certainly think that that's something that we could do to at least, look at your quarterback and see, oh, how many interceptions did he throw? Well, how many of them are the receivers responsible for? I think that's a statistic that could help, decide how efficient receivers are and quarterbacks are to help us out here. But yeah, I certainly think the 49ers have the better receiving core overall.
I mean, Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, you could just stop right there and it's clear. Speaking of that for the Chiefs, Kadarius Toney not expected to play in this game despite being healthy. You know, I don't want to say that's a surprise, but
Yeah,
I will say Rashee Rice has stepped up big time for the Chiefs,
for
basically being
sure.
it. Marquez Valdez Scantling, he had drops in the regular season, but he's actually catching the football in the postseason, which is something I don't think many of us thought going into the postseason would be something that would happen. So, I mean, you never know.
Yeah, that catch he had against was it the Bills or the Ravens at the end of the game? I think it's the
Ravens
Ravens.
game. Yep.
Yeah, that's a ball that he's dropped about 4 or 5 times at the end of games this season when the Chiefs needed him to catch it. But yeah, in the playoffs, he sees it and he held on, and that's a great job. But it's crazy. Had I told you a year ago at the end of the Super Bowl that Kadarius Toney would not be playing in next year's Super Bowl when the Chiefs go back, and he would still be on the roster, he'd be a healthy scratch. He wasn't the most key contributor, but you look even in that Super Bowl, he had the receiving touchdown. He had a punt return that was almost a touchdown. He was certainly a big playmaker for them last season, and especially in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. So it is crazy, kind of the fall from grace we've seen from them this year, as far as just not being able to execute in the same way. And overall, that leads to him being a healthy scratch for the Super Bowl today.
Yeah. I was about to say, yeah, he was a big time piece. That punt return led to an easy touchdown for the Chiefs in that game. And I mean, we both talked about it whenever that trade first happened with the Giants. We were both like, I mean, you didn't say it, but I'll quote what I said word for word was, wow, the NFL really let the Chiefs get another Tyreek Hill. And yeah, that is aged horribly. Do not quote me on that.
Yeah, well, to kind of follow you down that road, when we did our mock draft for the year before Kadarius Toney's draft, I mocked him to Kansas City at the end of the first round because I thought he would be a replacement Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes, and I did verbatim, at least in that episode, say that I thought he would be a great. I don't. I think they might have still had Tyreek Hill at the time, but I thought he would be another Tyreek Hill like guy that they could throw out there. So yeah, that's aged horribly for myself as well. But yeah, I think we both have at some point made a statement that he would be like Tyreek Hill for them.
Yeah. And got some more comments here from former point guard for a basketball team me and you were part of, Tyler Moran, coming on here.
Wow.
Saying I agree about the wide receiver room, but you can't deny how well the Chiefs wide receiver room played in that AFC championship. And Tyler's absolutely right. You can't deny
Absolutely.
the catch by Marquez Valdez Scantling, Rashee Rice, Travis Kelsey. Of course, we'll get to tight ends in a second. But yeah, Tyler's absolutely right. We talked about it too. That wide receiver room has stepped up big time in the postseason. And really, that's what teams who have that championship experience, that's what you can come to expect from those type of teams, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. They've certainly stepped up big. They've made the big plays. It is like I said, it's truly impressive the way this team has played and put themselves together here in the postseason, especially compared to where they were in the regular season.
Definitely. But Austin, let's get to the toughest category to choose between. That's tight end. I mean, look, this one pretty cut and simple. These are probably everyone's paying two of the best tight ends in the NFL currently. Um, Obviously, that's debatable. I mean, I think Pat Fryermuth and Darnell Washington will be the elite tight end duo of the next decade for the Steelers.
Yeah,
Cole Kmet for the Bears, I'm sure is going to be number one here soon.
yeah, absolutely. Next year.
But look, it's George Kittle, it's Travis Kelsey. If you had to pick one, which one are you going to give an advantage to? I know that's a ridiculously tough question to give you here on a live stream, but
Yeah, man, both of these guys are super duper talented. To make it as easy, I thought I was gonna make it easy. I was gonna say, what if I just went on their performances this year? But both at times had rough stretches where they weren't contributing as much, and then they've come alive here in the playoffs. Man, this is tough. I think when I look at it and I got to pick between these two, I like George Kittle and I like everything he brings. I think he brings a little bit more as far as his physicality in the blocking game. I think he's a little more versatile than Travis Kelsey is. But I think being, arguably the greatest tight end of all time, like Travis Kelsey is, just the way he catches the ball, he's such a difference maker in the pass game for Patrick Mahomes that I think he's probably the better tight end to take in this one. But it's really tough. I think Kittle's more versatile, but I think overall Kelsey's probably the best.
yeah, I absolutely agree with the versatility part. I think when it comes to blocking, easily take George Kittle. But there's something about Patrick Mahomes, and I saw an interview that Dolphin safety Javon Holland did. That he said one thing that Travis Kelsey does better than a lot of tight ends is whenever the play is breaking down, he knows where to find the openings in the defense just to sit there for his quarterback and give him an easy throw whenever Mahomes needs him to. And I think that's something that is very underrated about Travis Kelsey's game. And I'm absolutely going to have to agree with you on Travis Kelsey there. Plus, I mean, jokingly, I mean, come on,
Yeah,
the dude pulled Taylor Swift. You got to give points for that. I mean, come on, come
absolutely.
on. But
Um,
another comment here, Austin. We got another one. This is from someone you know somewhat decently well, a man by the name of Ethan Rocker.
wow.
Yeah. Saying 49ers are America's team. I need them. I cannot live in a world with a back-to-back Chiefs Super Bowl champs. Ah,
He was reeling after the AFC championship, to say the least. I talked to him on the phone after the game, and yeah, he was reeling. But obviously, they're running at some of those Patriots statistics now, and he's running at
yeah.
Tom, and so obviously he's getting a little nervous. So he's certainly rooting for the 49ers in this one. I know that much.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it just horrible whenever we see the same teams, back to back constantly, Ethan? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how we felt whenever Tom was around.
When there's one quarterback dominating the NFL and there's nothing you can do, no matter how bad the team seems in the regular season, and even at points in the playoffs, they just find a way to get it done. Yeah, we've never seen that before.
Yeah, never have. But now, Austin, this is the spot we're going to get to that this is going to be a little bit of the key spot, and that's the trenches and the O line for the two teams. And obviously, a big one for the Chiefs, Joe Tooney, their left guard, who's one of their best guards in the NFL. He's expected to be out for the game. I think he's already been ruled out for the game, actually. So you look at this Chiefs O-line: Donovan Smith, Nick Allegretti, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and of course Jawan Taylor. People cannot forget Jawan Taylor from week 1 of the regular season. And then the 49ers O-line, of course, you got Trent Williams. And that's really about it for big names, I would say, on their O-line. You got Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, Colton McKivitz. And something I've noticed this year, we saw say before I'll pass it to you, with the 49ers O-line, when Trent Williams goes out of the game, their O-line is in shambles. Their O-line has not been good when he's been out of the game. So if you had to pick an O-line to trust in the trenches, keep in mind what defensive line they're going to be facing that we're going to cover here in a second. Which one are you going to go with there?
Oof, it's tough, and it's tough to look at, but I really like kind of the what this 49ers offensive line brings personally. I do agree that I think when Trent Williams gets out of the game, things get out of whack for them. But I mean, he is probably the best tackle in the NFL. So obviously you can expect things to go a little haywire when you got out there. But I think kind of the paths that they can create for Christian McCaffrey that allow him to be so explosive, just able to get to that next level for him. And so, he's already got 5 yards and then he can do the rest himself. I think that's just something that's been so impressive from them. But the Chiefs' offensive line is certainly something that you can always look at and count on for them. This year, it's been a little bit more shaky than most. Bringing Jawan Taylor in at tackle. They've had some ups and downs at tackle after Eric Fisher retired a few years ago. And then, losing Joe Tooney is obviously not going to be exactly the best thing for him. So I think maybe just being down a couple people is going to kind of hurt the Chiefs in this one.
Yeah, I could see that, but at the same time, I think I'm gonna go actually lean more towards the Chiefs O-line in this one, solely because I love Trent Williams. I think he's probably the best tackle in the NFL currently. If not, he's in the argument for number one. But I just think there's a little bit more balance on this Chiefs O-line. I think Creed Humphrey is very much underrated since he's been drafted. We both liked him coming out of that NFL draft. I do like Trey Smith. He's been one of the more underrated guards, I think, in the NFL since he's been drafted. But the Chiefs have done a good job getting these second, third round picks, building up some of this O-line. And, you remember they lost Orlando Brown. He was a key left tackle for the team, and they had to fill him in with Jawan Taylor. And yeah, Jawan Taylor certainly at times we saw this year was an interesting tackle for the Chiefs, to say the least. Sometimes getting a little bit ahead of himself, but I'm going to trust in that Chiefs O-line more, but I trust overall that I think I trust in this Chiefs O-line. And some more comments from Tyler. Tyler said, if I'm not mistaken, Tom Brady was the guy who gave Patrick Mahomes his first regular season and postseason loss. Really hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes. That's a fair stat. I believe that stat is 100% true, Tyler. And he also said that one Super Bowl that Mahomes did lose, which was to Brady, Mahomes had no O-line. That is absolutely fair. I mean, me and you watched that Super Bowl together, Austin. We're like, geez, you imagine if he actually had time to make some throws. And even when he was scrambling, he made some of the most unbelievable incompletions we ever saw in that game.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, you had some absolutely abysmal offensive line play in that game. And then to really top it off, when he made plays, when he made some of the most, miraculous throws you've ever seen, the ball's getting dropped. And, that certainly wide receiver play and offensive line play hurt him in that one. So we'll see what happens tonight.
We will see if that script falls in, which, by the way, another thing we can talk about. CBS, obviously, Jim Nantz, Tony Romo will be calling the game. They have not had the greatest time in their games. Obviously, their first one they called was Patriots Rams, which was the lowest scoring Super Bowl, I believe, ever, 13-3, and then that Bucks Chiefs Super Bowl, which was 31-9 and was just not a good game overall. Tampa Bay had control of that game throughout most of it. You did call Gronk winning or not winning Super Bowl MVP, but having a big game in that one. So I will give you credit for that. Yes, I did. Yeah, but now let's get to the defensive side of the ball, Austin, where both these teams have excelled. Obviously, we have the defensive line for both teams, and I think it's safe to say we look at it, we automatically think we give an edge to the Niners. But this Chiefs O line, George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, obviously Charles Omenihu, who was one of their star DNs, he suffered an injury. He's out for the game. So it'll probably be Michael Donna, who's been a backup. But I mean, this Niners D line, I mean, woo, it is loaded, Austin. You got Chase Young, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa, Randy Gregory, Javon Kinlaw, and I mean Sebastian Joseph Day. I could go on and on. Those are some of the guys that aren't even starting on this Niners D line. And that's honestly why I'll go ahead and say it. I'm going to give my advantage to the Niners, even though Chase Young, we talked about, hasn't really shown up in the postseason or really a lot since he's got to San Francisco. He really hasn't had to, I would say, had to have had a big impact in the game because of how much depth is on this 49ers D line.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say it with you. I think the 49ers have the better D line. My big thing is, coming into the trade deadline, I don't think there's a lot of people that would have told you there was a better defensive line than the San Francisco 49ers in the entire NFL. And then they went out and added Chase Young, and they gave up they gave up a compensation pick or a pick, like a fifth round pick, and they'll get that back in a compensation pick in this draft. So they really actually gave up nothing to get him. Um, it really was a big addition for them. So I think that only made this defensive line better. And, again, he hasn't performed the way he's expected, but he's Chase Young. He's a distraction out there. And there's so many other pieces that even if Chase Young needs to come out of this game, they're absolutely unstoppable. I definitely think this is the best defensive line in football and the best defensive line in this game.
Yeah, definitely. And more comments from a guy named Grant McNeil. I don't know if you've ever heard of him or not.
I
I don't know,
don't
some
know
random
anybody
guy.
by that name.
He says, "Go Niners." You forgot the four in front of it. Gosh, come on, get that right. And Patrick Mahomes, more like stinky quarterback. Um,
I can get behind that. Okay.
ah, so we know where. So it seems like most of the comments, Austin, seem to be leaning the 49ers way early on,
Yeah.
at least so far.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people pulling for the 49ers here. I can't say that I blame them.
Yeah, for obvious reasons. But now let's get to the linebacking core. And again, it feels a little bit unfair when you look at it. I mean, obviously, the Chiefs linebacking core is not a horrible linebacking core. Willie Gay Jr., Nick Bolton, and Drew Tranquill, they're not bad. Nick Bolton was one of my favorites coming out of that NFL draft whenever the Chiefs got him. Plus, remember, he had a scoop and score in the Super Bowl last year against the
Yeah.
Eagles, so that could be something to keep an eye out for. But man, the 49ers linebacking core again, Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner. And really, I mean, those two alone are pretty much all pros. Dre Greenlaw was a steal for the Niners in that draft, as well as Fred Warner. So, I mean, and you remember, Austin, how the 49ers got Fred Warner? Do you remember that?
I do not remember that. I'd love to hear.
So if you remember, the Niners and the Bears made a trade at a NFL draft.
You can stop. You can
Um,
stop. You can stop. I remember. I remember. I remember.
I was about to say,
Uh,
I feel like once I said that,
yeah, I remember. I tap out. I give up. I know. I know why they did it. I know what happened.
yeah, good. I was going to stop myself. I was going to stop it, but this linebacking core for both sides is decently good. But again, this 49ers linebacking core, you have Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, who both, again, were a part of that first Super Bowl and have been elite players for that 49ers team really this whole postseason. And since they've both been drafted by the San Francisco 49er team.
Yeah, and I'd say both of those guys have gotten much better since that first Super Bowl as well. I like the 49ers linebacking core better in this game, but I really don't think you can sleep on the Kansas City Chiefs linebacking core. Me and you both like Nick Bolton coming out of Missouri. Unfortunately, that's where he went to school. Um, I thought he should have been a first round pick. I thought that year the Giants should have spent their first round pick on him and said they spent it on Kadarius Toney, and now they both play for the Chiefs. But he really came alive last year after getting thrust into some, bigger positions and some bigger minutes. Like you said, he had the big scoop and score in the Super Bowl last year. So He's really blossomed super well. A guy I've always liked for obvious reasons. Drew Tranquil went to Notre Dame. I thought he was always pretty good in his time with the Chargers. Gets picked up in free agency this past offseason by the Chiefs, and he's been performing for them. So I really like the way that this Chiefs linebacking core has performed. But it really is hard to compete with two guys who I'd argue are probably top 10 at their position for the other team.
Yeah, it really is hard to compete, and that's been a thing with this 49ers team. That D line, that linebacking core has always been tough for anyone to compete with. And some more comments from Tyler. We actually have someone, Tyler's on the Chiefs tonight, and he says he's not
Okay,
cheering for them, but he figures they will win. Wouldn't be mad if the 49ers won. He's a fan of Purdy and feel like he gets unfair criticism. And yeah, that is
I agree.
rightfully correct. He does get unfair criticism. I mean, I wish I got criticized that much if that meant I got to go to lead my team to a Super Bowl and multiple
Yeah,
comebacks in the playoffs.
yeah. I mean, say what you want about the guy, but he's the guy calling the plays. He's the guy running the offense, and at the end of the day, he's the guy that's made some of the biggest plays for this team down the stretch. Whatever you think might be the circumstances behind that, I guess is your own opinion. But he's the guy that's been throwing the ball at the end of the game. So he's certainly the guy. He certainly deserves more credit than he gets.
Yeah, definitely. Now let's get to the secondary, one of the final parts here. Secondary for the Chiefs, I'm not going to lie. Really decent secondary they did a good job with. L'Jarius Sneed. They have Trent McDuffie, and of course their safeties, Justin Reed, Mike Edwards. And this 49ers team, we talk about every year. If there's a weakness with this Niners defense, we would say it's their secondary. Obviously, their corners, Charvarius Ward, the Mondre Lenore. Of course, they have Jair Brown, Tashawn Gibson, Hufanga, their safety from SC. I know he's been dealing with an injury. I don't know if he's playing in the Super Bowl officially or not. I cannot confirm that. But really, to me, this is where I give the Chiefs an edge. I think when it comes down to it, I trust this Chiefs secondary a lot more than I trust in this 49ers secondary. And that's nothing against the 49ers secondary. It's just if there's a weakness on that defense, it's the secondary.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's a bad secondary by any means, but it certainly it isn't the same caliber as the rest of this defense. And the Chiefs have done an exceptional job of grabbing secondary players in the draft. You look at Juan Thornhill, L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie. McDuffie was a rookie last year? Was it Sneed that was a rookie last year? Is there another corner on that team that was a rookie last year?
That's a good question. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I could do some research into it. But yeah, Trent McDuffie, I can't confirm was someone. They even traded up to get Trent McDuffie, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
So
because I remember McDuffie
Jalen
and the other
Watson, that's who it was. Jalen
Jalen
Watson.
Watson. They had kind of up and down seasons. They were rookies being thrust into starting in the NFL. But they came up pretty big in that Super Bowl. Both of those guys, they kind of grew up in the Super Bowl last year, and they played super well this year. And Sneed, like you said, he's the number one corner on this team. He's a solid guy. Yeah, this secondary is super duper good. And don't forget about Justin Reed coming over from the Texans. Basically was a budget Tyrann Mathieu, does everything that Tyrann Mathieu does, but for about half the price. So they let Mathieu walk to the Saints, and they bring in Justin Reed, who's been a great player for them and works as a perfect substitute kicker.
Yeah, he really does work as a substitute kicker. He really did work out well there. And now our final segment here, you could say kicker, but I mean, in my opinion, if I had to choose between Jake Moody and Harrison Butker, I'm going to trust Harrison Butker just because I think that's just a confidence one. I trust him more, I think.
Yeah.
But let's talk about head coaches, Austin. Let's talk about these head coaches. Very interesting. Of course, they met before. You have Andy Reid, multiple Super Bowl championships. But for a long time in his career, it was, could he get the big one? Could he finally win that Super Bowl? And you know who's sitting in that spot now? Kyle Shanahan, San Francisco
Yeah.
49ers head coach. And look, I'm going to give both these guys credit. Phenomenal coaches, both, obviously. Tremendous game plan coaches. Both are very creative. I imagine we'll see a lot of creativity in the red zone and on third down when these two teams go at it tonight. And honestly, it's a toss up when you look at schematically for each side. But which one are you going to go with if there's a coach you got to go with?
Oof, coach, I got to go with. This is tough. Um, I really like both of these guys. I'd love to have either one of these guys coaching in Chicago right now. But I think I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Andy Reid. Just because you see kind of the level that his teams have played at for a long time, but as of late, you see guys kind of leaving Kansas City and going somewhere else. Matt Nagy, an example, and not really able to replicate long-term success uh, outside of Kansas City. So, um, but you kind of look at some of the assistants that Kyle Shanahan has shed off recently, and how well they're performing. And I don't think that necessarily means that his scheme is just so great that he's not a good coach. But I certainly think that it says a lot about a coach when you go out there and your team performs, and other guys try to take that same thing and they can't necessarily replicate it everywhere else. I think that definitely means you're a special kind of football mind.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. My reasoning why I would go with Andy Reid, Tyler actually just commented it for me, so we kind of timed it pretty well with me. What Tyler said, if I was basically what he said, if I was 49ers, I'd be worried if the Chiefs jumped out to a lead. 49ers offense isn't made to come from behind and win. I understand they had the last two games, but those teams didn't have Patrick Mahomes, and I like the Chiefs defense better also. But that I'll agree with. The 49ers team, if I had to trust it on number one, Kyle Shanahan, look, if anyone wants to look into his blown leads in big games, I'm not trying to criticize Kyle Shanahan. I think he's an overall really good coach, but not running the football up 28-3, making some very questionable choices in that game as the Falcons OC had a 10-point lead on the Chiefs in the first Super Bowl matchup, and another blown lead there despite forcing turnovers against the Chiefs. And like I talked about, this Niners team, despite these last couple of games where they've come back, they are not known as a team that you would rely on to make comebacks in the big games. And an example of that is they haven't played a Patrick Mahomes and a
Yeah.
Kansas City Chiefs team. So I would definitely lean towards Andy Reid in this one. But now, Austin, let's get to some of these fun. Let's get to some of these fun ones. We've gone through each of those. Let's get the first one out of the way. The coin toss, everyone's favorite tradition, betting on the coin toss here. Look, last year, both went tails. We both were correct on that. Do you stick with your gut here? I've already placed my bet on. I'm just gonna go be honest with you. I already placed my bet on tails. So if I win on tails tonight, I'm partying. So
Wow, this guy is going to be living it up.
yeah.
Yeah. I think the old adage is just what you got to stick to. Tails never fails. I'm going to ride with tails minus 105 odds for heads or tails in this one. Per USA Today. So that obviously anything can happen. It's 50-50. So
Right.
this is not the point where I would be putting, the house down.
Yeah.
I'd save that for the Gatorade color, and then be disappointed when they don't show it on TV. And it's
You have to
mayhem.
search all over the internet. But no, let's get to the Gatorade color next, Austin. This is one that you brought on in one of our very first Super Bowl episodes. And every year we have been wrong. We have felt so confident about all of them, and yet they have all just been constantly wrong. Whenever we think we outsmart the system, it never seems to work out for us. It never seems to.
Yeah. Uh,
But
you
yeah,
know. Oh, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. You go ahead. I cut
Okay.
you off. I apologize.
So just looking at the odds right now, at least what I'm looking at from USA Today again, we've got purple is at plus 225 right now, blue plus 275, yellow/green at plus 450. I wish those weren't grouped together because they're not the same color. I think you should just be able to
Right.
bet on the colors individually. Same thing for this one. Red/pink is at plus 450 as well. Orange is at plus 500. Clear or water is at plus 1,000, and then no Gatorade bath is at plus 2,000. If you're daring enough to assume that in a championship game they would not do a Gatorade bath, it'd have to be unprecedented. I mean, the circumstances would have to be resounding. I mean, it would just have to be such like a bad beating that like they just called the game off and made everybody leave the field or something. I just don't know how there's no Gatorade bath, but if you're daring enough to go plus 2,000 there, you make some decent money. But personally, I'm gonna reason it out like I do every year, even though the reasoning doesn't matter, because they will just do whatever color they want, and they do not care what the people have to think. What was it blue last year, or it was blue a couple years ago when like what Tampa Bay won? Is that when it was blue?
Yes. Yes.
And then what? It was clear when the Rams won. Uh,
It was blue. So it was blue when Tampa Bay beat Kansas City. It was blue
okay.
whenever the Rams won, and it was
Oh, okay.
purple last year when the Chiefs won.
Okay. That wouldn't make sense why it's the favorite this year, but I think it's unpredictable. I think banking back to back is just no fun. Uh, I'm gonna do this again, and I did this the last time these two teams played. I'm gonna go with red here, because both of these teams wear the color red. I feel like that gives you some pretty good odds that the Gatorade color might be red, even though in this three you just read, only one of those teams had the team color matching the Gatorade. But I'm a sucker for the team color matching the Gatorade. I feel like it should. And we've got double the chance of that happening in this game because both teams wear red.
Yeah. I hear you, and it should be red, but that would be way too obvious. I feel like that.
Wow. At
I
plus
feel like
450 odds, though, I
yeah.
mean,
I know. I just in my head, I'm like, yeah, red makes too much sense. They're both red teams. It would make a lot of sense for them to do red, which is why I don't think it's gonna be red.
if you say purple, I'm leaving right now. If you say purple, I'm leaving the Zoom and
No,
you're finishing
no,
this by
I'm
yourself.
not going with purple. I'm going with one that actually I'm gonna go with the classic one. Give me orange plus. I think it's 325 right now. I'm
500.
gonna go or 500 right now. It's 500
Oh,
now.
maybe.
Oh yeah.
Well, it depends on where you're looking. Where I'm looking, it says 500. Where you're looking, it could be 350, whatever.
Tell me where it is. I'm gonna go put money on that after this.
Well, I
Um,
don't know where USA Today is getting their information, but I will. I'm the one that they're showing right now. I think is DraftKings, which is
I
not
know
available in the
Betley.
state of
Yeah,
Arkansas.
I know Betley is having Gatorade color stuff, so I know that's something to keep an eye on for there.
Oh, then I should
But
just
yeah,
be on Betlink.
yeah, you should. But I'm gonna go with orange for it. I just think it's a classic, simple one. My underdog second choice would not surprise me if it's blue. Would not surprise me if it's blue at all. But I'm an orange.
Can't believe you even say that.
Or orange is just a personal favorite of mine, and it's the classic color you see, and maybe this is the Super Bowl where you're due for that classic orange Gatorade color there. But Austin, you also talked about before, when discussing with me before about how oh, actually, Tyler says, give me orange because they will drink the blue and the purple. The orange will have plenty left over to dump on the coach. See, Tyler's with me.
I
Tyler gets
I
it.
like that reasoning. I like that reasoning. I can't say I
I
fault
wish I
you
would have
for
thought of
thinking
that
about it like that.
reasoning. Yeah, I wish I would have thought of that. That would have made me sound a lot smarter by picking orange. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Tyler's analogy. Tyler's analogy sounds a lot smarter than mine. But Austin, you talked about some player props that you might be interested in for the game. Before we started recording, are any of those that are eye popping to you right now?
Okay, well, some of the ones that I was looking at on here, they're actually some of the more the not player props. They're some of more of these silly props. But
I
you've got
like
like
it. I
coin
like it.
toss. You've got like coin toss winner. Which team actually wins the coin toss?
Ah.
Those are both also at minus 105. Um, then you've got first team to call a timeout. Uh, First team to attempt a coach's challenge. Will the final score be a scoregami? This is one of
Ooh.
my favorite ones right here. Uh, Odds are minus 10,000 no. Obviously the clear cut favorite but
How much is
plus
yes?
2,000, yes. Plus 2,000, yes. I may have to get on that one as soon as we finish recording because I'm
Just
hoping
put
for some
$1 down on it.
scoregami.
Like put $1 down on it or something just in case it
Yeah,
does happen.
I could use it. um, will the opening kickoff be returned for a touchdown? Plus 5,000 on yes.
Hey, Devin Hester. Devin Hester was in the hall, just inducted into the Hall of Fame. If there's going to be a year for someone else to do it, it would be this year, I think. I think so.
I agree. Will the first play from scrimmage result in a first down? Yes is plus 340. No is minus 500. Uh, and then now you get into some of these player ones. Who will have more receiving yards, Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk? Fumble lost in the first half? Yes or no? Yeah, a lot of treats in here though.
I will say my favorite one I've seen um, was on, I think it was on Oaklawn Sports. Will there be a doink at any point in the Super Bowl? I think it's like plus
Yes, there will.
600. I think it was like plus 600. Plus, also, I heard they're adding cameras for the uprights specifically called the doink camera. I don't think
They
they would add
should.
that in there. Yeah, for this year's Super Bowl
Yeah,
in
it's
Vegas.
scripted. A
Yeah.
scripted doink. I believe
So
it.
I am 100%. I think it's like plus 600. Yeah, I'm going to do that solely for the meme and some more from Tyler. Oh, here you go. Tyler actually he's given us some of his same game parlay for tonight, Austin. We could give him a quick tip
Okay,
right now here.
I want to hear this.
So
I want to hear this.
he has Chiefs plus 2. He's got Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown.
Okay.
Travis Kelce over 51.5 receiving yards. And then he has both teams to score at least, and that's all at plus 315. And then he has both teams to score 1+ rushing touchdown at plus 125. And basically means he thinks that both teams are going to get in with a run. So that's some of Tyler's. I think those are some solid picks right there. I think so.
Yeah, I like that. I may have to copy that one, honestly, just to keep myself above the water here.
I
We
mean,
might get
Christian
in deep
McCaffrey
tonight.
anytime touchdown was money all year. So, I mean, you got to take that, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, you got to think at some point he's going to find the end zone. It's been hard to keep him out.
I mean, I forget what was the streak he had this year. What was it, like 18 games in a row or something where he scored a
Yeah,
touchdown?
17 or 18.
Something like that. I think so. But Austin, I have a question. If you had to pick a favorite player prop for this game, what are you picking? What are you picking?
Ooh,
If is it Christian McCaffrey? You stealing Tyler's?
I think Christian McCaffrey is like such an easy one that it almost feels like you're cheating. I think if you're actually betting it, it's a smart idea to bet it just because it will hit. But I think for me to pick that one is like the one that I like the most. I think that's cheating here just because there's no courage in that. I think my favorite one, just because there's a chance that it doesn't happen at all, for anybody, is first interception of the game. And if I had to pound first interception of the game, give me Travaris Ward plus 1,800 playing against
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes, his former team in the Super Bowl, but shoes on the other foot now. He's playing for the Niners instead of the Chiefs. Give me this guy getting an interception at some point in the game, the first interception at plus 1,800. I'd love to see it. But I really think just an interception at any time in the game, I go Travaris Ward.
Okay. All right. I like that one. So mine, I got one mainly on the offensive end for it, and it's on the 49ers side. Obviously, look, you could honestly take Travis Kelce over for receiving yards, and that's a solid bet right there. I think that's a pretty solid bet to make right there. For me, I'm actually going to look at one I don't think many people are talking about. Give me the Deebo Samuel over 15.5 rushing yards. I think Kyle Shanahan's going to use him a lot in the run game here. Maybe early on in the game, maybe
Yeah.
late in the second half. And I think Deebo easily crushes that number because we saw whenever he ran the football in the first matchup against them in the Super Bowl, he had a lot of big plays rushing the football against the Chiefs defense. And I mean, we've seen, despite going away from it in recent years, whenever they put him in the backfield, good things seem to happen for this 49ers offense. So give me Debo on that one. But Austin, it's time. It's time for the final segment here. Your Super Bowl pick. I want your score, the winner, obviously, Super Bowl MVP. Give me all three. Go.
Okay, the score of this ball game, I'm gonna say 31-27. And give me the San Francisco 49ers. This is a tough one. I think either of these teams can win this game. I think Kansas City's been incredibly resilient this season. But I think it comes down to a big stop by this 49ers defense at the end of the game, up four to get it done. And I am gonna give the Super Bowl MVP. Oh, this is tough. I want to say Travaris Ward, but I'm not gonna say that. That's too bold. I'm gonna go with give me George Kittle. He has 2 touchdowns tonight.
Hey, okay. You're following that Gronk script, aren't you? You're following the Gronk script.
Yeah. Hey, Gronk did catch 2 touchdowns in that
He
game.
did. He did.
Unfortunately, Tom Brady just had a gem of a game besides throwing it to Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah. And some more comments here. Tyler said, I could be wrong, but Mahomes hasn't thrown an interception in the playoffs yet, right? I don't think he has thrown an
I don't
interception
think he
yet.
has. I'm completely with you there. I'm hoping Travaris Ward just shines tonight.
And I think Debo most receiving yards in a game is 300 on some places. Well, Tyler, I will be taking that and rushing yards probably because I think Debo could be a big one because I think they're going to focus in on McCaffrey. I think Debo could be in for a big game here, even though we know what Debo's capable of. I think they're going to zone in on McCaffrey a lot tonight. But for my pick, I look at it this way. Look, I think this 49ers team is a lot more talented overall offensively with weapons. I think they're more talented overall defensively when it comes to it. And I mean, overall, I think they're just more talented roster on the field tonight. Um, but Patrick Mahomes is an underdog, and I may be an idiot, but I'm not stupid. I'm gonna take the
Okay.
Chiefs to win this game tonight. Actually, I have a bit of a low scoring one, 27-17. I'm gonna pick the Chiefs to win this one. I say they
Okay.
score a late touchdown to pull away at the very end. And who should I go with for Super Bowl MVP? I mean, there's obviously you could go Mahomes, you could go Travis Kelce, you could go those ways.
Yeah.
You could definitely go that way, but give me Isaiah Pacheco to win Super Bowl
Wow.
MVP. Isaiah Pacheco, I think he does a lot out of the backfield tonight, receiving and rushing. I think he wins Super Bowl MVP.
And avenges Damian Williams Super Bowl
Yes.
MVP from the first time that the 49ers and the Chiefs played. And Patrick Mahomes was a little bit corruptly awarded the Finals MVP award or
Yeah.
Super Bowl
See,
MVP.
you get where I'm going with it. I see you get where I'm going with it. But real quickly, one thing we'll add here. Chiefs, Tyler has the Chiefs winning 31-28 as his final score. High scoring
Okay.
affair there for
I,
Tyler. I like that.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I think that should be a fun one. But I really think that's going to be it for us. Austin, is there anything else you want to add here for our Super Bowl live stream? Oh, Tyler has Rashee Rice MVP. My bad. I forgot to add that.
Okay, I like that. I like that. I think that's a fun pick. I don't know if there's anything else for me to add. I'm excited for the Super Bowl. I hope everybody enjoys it, has fun with it, whether you're there, for the game, for the halftime show, for the commercials. Have a blast with it. That's what this is all about. It's about being fun. Um, and yeah, I'm ready to see this game. I'm ready to get these bets cashed in and get after it.
Yeah. I'm ready for the game. I'm ready for everything. More importantly, I'm ready for hopefully a Deadpool 3 trailer during the game. I've heard there's going to be a
Yeah,
trailer during the game.
I've heard there's going to be a trailer. Now, the director said that if he said anything about Deadpool, it would result in his untimely death. So he cannot confirm or deny, but that makes me think that there might be one tonight. And NCAA football, we're going to keep on hoping. I am again seeing reports that it will be sometime during the Super Bowl, just like it was during the college football playoff.
Oh
Well,
no, not
which
again.
means it
No.
probably won't happen. But going to keep my fingers crossed that it does happen. Uh, and I'm hoping that there will be one thing in there, whether it's Marvel or whatever it ends up being, one trailer in there I've heard nothing about that they just drop on your head and you're surprised by it. I hope that there's something out there that will surprise me and I'll be excited to see.
Yeah. And of course, Usher Super Bowl halftime show. Hopefully he performs well. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what to expect there. I'll just be honest.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of Usher songs. I
Me
probably
neither.
will be like eating or something. I'll probably be in the other room while he performs. No offense to Usher. The one song I like by Usher, Burn, banger, great song. If you
Yeah.
haven't heard it, go listen to it right now. But that's it. That's really it. That's really all I know. So, I can't, double down on that one. I will probably be doing something else.
Yeah. I know like one or two, maybe. And maybe there's some I know I just don't know the title off the top of my head. So that's probably it. But yeah, I think that's gonna be it for us. We plan to get back on schedule next week. We're gonna talk next week, obviously. NFL offseason will begin. We'll probably dive into some of the teams that didn't make the big game. Obviously, NBA trade deadline and all-star game are gonna be happening. Um, Oh, actually, according to Tyler, he heard Little John and Justin Bieber are going to show up at the halftime show.
I was just about to say I wouldn't be surprised if Bieber was there because him and Usher, that's how he got his start was with Usher. I wouldn't be
That's fair.
surprised if Bieber was there. Um, so yeah, I think that's absolutely possible. I don't know about Lil Jon's ties to it, so that's new. That one is more of a surprise to me.
Hey,
But
we had
maybe
50
I'll have to
Cent.
stick around.
Yeah, we had 50
Yeah,
Cent. Don't forget about that.
yep, that's fair. So we'll see. Maybe I'll have to stay tuned to catch all the surprises.
Maybe so. But yeah, we'll have those. And obviously, with this coming to an end and we're basically halfway through February, it's almost March Madness time, Austin. It's almost time for March Madness.
We're getting there. We are getting there.
Yep. And we can't wait
Speaking of
to
March
review our
Madness,
brackets.
Sam Darnold plays. Well, he'll be on the field tonight.
Yes.
He may not actually. He probably won't actually play unless it gets down to it and they really need him. But he'll be out there and he will forever live in Bold Take Podcast March Madness history.
Yes. If you want to go back and listen to our March Madness episode, when you hear the word Sam Darnold, turn your volume up or down, make your choice there,
Yeah,
preferably down.
that was our NFL offseason preview
Yes, it was
episode, and
NFL offseason. That's right.
we were watching the March Madness while it was going on.
Yep. Furman Paladins. Welcome to March, the famous saying of this man during that moment. But that's going to be it for this stream. We want to thank you all for joining in. Have